What's going on, guys? So today we are going to talk about a topic which is probably one of the most frequently asked questions that I get regarding Berserk. And I'm not sure why you're asking me exactly. I'm just a guy that makes mid-tier YouTube videos and I have no idea what's going on inside the mind of Miura. However, the lore and mechanics of how things work in Berserk is a passion of mine, so I'm going to do my best to give you an all-inclusive and detailed explanation of what is called the Incarnation ceremony. Or to put it simply, how the hell did Griffith come back to the physical world, and what exactly was going on at the end of the Conviction arc? Because if there's any words to describe the finale of that arc, they are chaotic and confusing. So let's break this down piece by piece and get to the bottom of it. Now, the first thing I want to do is to go all the way back to the chapters called Revelations that take place between chapter 126 and 128. Here we get a taste of the physical world we all know and reside in and see that it is falling into despair. There is famine, disaster, and plague all at work here. People are being driven from their homes and they are going poor and hungry and dying at a rampant rate. These are all conditions of the physical world, and as people are harmed and their lives are destroyed in these various ways, it begins to create a mindset of hopelessness and a desire for help. And this is important. And if you want to reflect this to real life, just think about the year 2020 in itself and the whole COVID-19 nonsense. I mean, wouldn't you say that the overall collective mindset of people right now is a lot more fearful, frustrated, suspicious, and full of anxiety than it was a year ago? This is negative energy coming from a large group of people collectively. It's the same thing happening in Berserk, and in this story there wasn't even the media to help push the negativity. But now we see something very interesting, and that is the rats themselves that have carried the plague and disease briefly take the shape of one of the God Hand members, Conrad, the most underrated God Hand, in my opinion. And the rats swarm on top of a pile of corpses, forming his shape before spitting out of his mouth, which are their souls, which to me indicates his influence over them as they're put out into the world. They will carry that fear and negativity with them even into their deaths, and they will become restless spirits in the astral world, unable to fully cross over. So this tells us that even though the God Hand can't physically interact here in the real world, they have a subtle way to push and influence, such as with the plague. Now, everybody still has free will and their own personalities, but when pressed in a particular direction, people react accordingly. In other words, we're not as unique as we think we are. And when we're at the end of our ropes, we will ultimately desire one thing: help. And that help is given personification with the incorporation of the Holy See and its prophecies of a Hawk of Light, a messianic Jesus-like figure that would come down to lead the people to salvation. Well, again in the Revelations chapters, it is said that everybody had a collective dream about just that, a premonition. People are more open to suggestion within their dreams, and what you need to remember is that there are three worlds in the Berserk lore: the physical, the astral, and the idea world, meaning an abstract concept that we are all connected by our thoughts, emotions, and energy. If you're a spiritual person, this is like being connected to the source, or scientifically, it's like how we are all made of stardust, and we are all entwined by not being in the universe, but being the universe itself, experiencing itself. Basically what I'm saying is that we are all one, in some sense anyway. And the God Hand performed a massive inception on the entire human race, planting the seed of a savior that would come to save them soon, so that they would all be prepared for when it happened. So all of this, making apostles, the eclipse, all of that stuff, that was the prep work. Now things really get going when we get to Albion, which surrounds the Tower of Conviction. The tower itself has been here for hundreds of years, and it's said to be the place that the legendary King Geyserich imprisoned a sage that called out for angels to save him, and they eventually did. But that's a whole other story. The important thing is that the tower is now run by the Holy See, and is a place that is used to punish criminals and anyone deemed to be a heretic. There is a torture chamber where many people are defiled, mutilated, and killed in various barbaric and horrible ways. Around the tower as well, there are hundreds of refugees, people with no place to go or a place to call home. more people dying of starvation, illness, and what have you. People that are also living in fear due to the Holy See's influence and not wanting to be perceived as a heretic. As in, just about anything, even subtly against the religion at the time, can get you fast-tracked to this torture chamber, even if you're a mother just trying to save your infant. Now, according to the Inquisitor Father Mosgus, sin is sin, and through the ordeal of torture, may you be forgiven. And this paranoia and fear of that happening, and the fear of the religion that rules them, leads a large group of people to rebel in the complete opposite direction, to where they are having literal satanic orgies in a cave around Albion. And though on its surface it seems kind of fun, anyways, it is to the extreme that they are going. Drugs are involved, and there's plenty of Baphomet imagery, and kissing the snake penis of a goat head guy, yeah, it gets really weird. Also, you can't trust the girls here because they'll probably just toss you off a cliff. What is happening here is that people are so desperate to feel free that they are indulging in every cardinal desire they have without regard to anything or anyone, or even themselves. Just as Conrad appeared during the concentrated area of the plague, Slan appears in the fire of the heretic orgy, representing the lust and negativity and all that kind of energy coming from this place. And this also kind of confirms that in places of that collective negativity, a god hand rises. Now, both Conrad and Slan don't have physical forms in their manifestations. They use other things like rats and fire. They don't have a physical body of the flesh. But it shows us that if you get enough people around, all dwelling within dark energy, a god hand member rises closer to the surface of the physical world. And that brings us to the flesh blobs that form towards the finale of the Conviction arc. So we know Albion, despite being a place seemingly holy and divine, something good, is actually filled to the brim with negativity. The amount of people that have died here in numerous horrible ways and in unjustified ways are all now restless spirits of the dead that cannot fully pass on to the afterlife. Their ghosts are here and they no longer have individual personality. They are just remnants of that negative emotion. And upon the arrival of not one, but two people having the brand of sacrifice, Guts and Casca, it causes the spirits to rise as they are attracted to the brands. So if you want to go with the fate/causality aspect of Berserk, yes, I do believe that both Guts and Casca kind of had to be here for the Incarnation to happen. But this is up for debate in some circles of the Berserk fanbase, but whatever your interpretation is, what matters is the end result. The spirits awakening all kind of converge with one another. The anger, hatred, regret, malice, and all those other feelings are smooshed together in one blob, which brings recently deceased corpses and blood along with it as it moves throughout the base of the tower. And it literally is just like the Blob, gathering everything it can with it as it moves, surrounding and engulfing anyone that's in its path, alive or dead. And the living people, of course, die in a panic and scared, so the Blob absorbs all of that negative energy with it as well, only making it stronger and larger. You can't really fight it. I mean, yes, fire and light keep it away, but your best bet would be to run far, far away from it. But here's the trick. People instinctively run towards the Tower of Conviction in hopes that, due to it being a holy religious place, it will save them. When they see Mosgus, who has been turned into a pseudo-apostle, but with the angelic wings that he has, they believe that they need to be near him and that he will protect them. So the irony is that the very thing people feared, they now run to. And what it causes is hundreds of people, all gathered in one place, all with the same desire. They are thinking nothing else, and they lose a sense of self. The individuals disappear, and they become one in thought, body, and mind, even before being killed. And this is a forced ritualistic behavior. And what was the trigger to activate a Bailet? Desire and despair mixed together. And here you have an overabundance of it. And in this case, our Bailet comes in the form of a character called the Egg of the Perfect World, an unnamed man whom, upon finding a Bailet of his own, had nothing and no one to sacrifice. So instead, he desired to sacrifice the world for a better one. Now, I already made a Monster Manual video completely explaining in detail the Egg Apostle, so go check that out if you haven't, if you want more explanation on him. But he will serve as the Bailet for humanity's collective desire for a savior. As well, he is branded himself. basically offering himself, his own life, for the exchange of receiving a new world. And think of him kind of like a reverse Bailet. As a regular Bailet will bring you into a deep layer of the astral world, the egg apostle brings something from deep in the astral world into the physical. So what you have is a thing that brings Griffith from point A to point B, that is this apostle. And the reason that it can do it is because the activation requirements were met by the collective desire, despair, and negativity from those around him. And much like the use of the Crimson Bailet, there are many parallels of the eclipse here, but in the physical world instead. You have Casca being attacked beforehand and being manhandled by a large group. You have Luca and Nina hanging off the side of a tower, just how Guts and Griffith did during the eclipse. Guts is forced to look at Casca as she is grabbed by others. The rising blob is a lot like the onslaught of apostles, and the tower itself crumbles into the shape of a hand. As well, the restless spirits begin to take the form of the God Hand themselves. Now this brings us to the final piece of the puzzle, and a bit of a controversial one. And this is the involvement of the demon child and how it fuses with Griffith. So look, I have not found any official statements as to the actual intention by Kentaro Miura here. If you find an interview or something official, let me know, link it below, whatever it is. But I will give you my thoughts as well as the other theories that I've seen out there. So as the egg apostle is on its way, he notices the wounded demon child. And this was the child conceived by Guts and Casca, but corrupted by the demonic energy when Griffith had his way with her. The egg apostle swallows the baby out of a feeling of pity, wanting them to die together as the new world is born. So as the baby is inside of the activated egg, it sort of incubates and begins to lose its demony features and becomes more human-like. And there is a full page of the baby's form becoming the form of Griffith himself. Now it seems clear enough to me that the baby's body is becoming the physical vessel for Griffith/Femto. I think this is because if Femto is an astral being, just like Conrad with the rats and Slan with fire, he would need something to inhabit on the physical plane. Now, there is a portion of the fan base who believe that Griffith would have been brought here to the physical world regardless, even if the baby was not here. And like I said, there's no official statement that I could find that confirms or denies this theory. So I will not say that it's invalid to think that Griffith could have been brought here without a body to inhabit. But if you're asking my personal opinion, yes, I think he would have needed something. And that the idea of the baby incubating inside the egg was the whole point and why we see the baby transform into Griffith. Because we don't see the baby disappear or fuse into the Bailet and then Griffith arrives from somewhere. We literally see one changing into the other. But now the question is, if the baby's body was needed, was it intended to be this specific baby? And to that I would say no. I think the accident wasn't that the baby was swallowed to become the body. I think the accident was that it was this baby. If we assume Griffith needed a body, and that the body being an infant made the most sense, since a baby would not have a sense of identity or ego built yet that Griffiths would have to battle against for dominance in the body, a baby would literally be an empty shell that he could inhabit. And if you remember, there actually was a baby in the tower that might have been able to be used. A poor mother was sent to this torture chamber because she risked her life so that her baby would be taken in and protected at the tower. Now, what if that baby was intended to be the vessel? I know that's some crazy wild fan theory on my part, and that's why I say don't take my word for it in any of these videos. This is just make your own opinion, and this is my opinion. But what I'm saying is that a regular human baby would be an empty shell to take. But the demon child has desires of its own. It loves its parents and wants to protect its mother. It sees Casca as valuable. It has coherence. It can make its own choices. So when Griffith uses that body, it's my theory that this is the reason why he didn't fully take over the body. So whatever your theory is, whether you think the baby was not needed, that it was meant to be a different baby, or if you think that Griffith planned the corruption of the child from the very start in order to use it later, And admittedly, I kind of theorized that maybe that was the case, but I no longer think it is. So, in short, I truly believe the demon baby's body was an accident, but I believe there did need to be a body there. Anyway, after the activation and incubation of the baby, the Tower of Conviction collapses, and the sun rises, dissipating the blob of restless spirits. And from there, a new day dawns, the beginning of the new world being changed forever with the arrival of Griffith himself in a human form. And as he would go on to prove their dreams true and act as a messiah on Earth, come to lead mankind to salvation, collecting all of them in a cage known as Falconia, while the world falls into chaos around it. All the while, Griffith, knowing his heart should have been frozen, but he still feels the desire to protect Casca, due to the influence of the demon child, which will most likely be a direct cause in defeating Griffith later on. Maybe. So anyways, guys, that will do it. That is my incarnation ceremony explained. I hope I explained every piece of the puzzle for you. I let you know that a lot of this is theory. This isn't necessarily 100% true, 100% fact. I'm not Kentaro Miura. But from my understanding, this is the play-by-play of everything that happened during the incarnation and why Griffith has returned. Anyways, let me know what you think. Leave all your thoughts, comments, and theories down below in the comments. Let's have a discussion about it. Nobody's theory is wrong or stupid. Let's just kind of get into it and just talk about Berserk, because we're all here because we love this series. Anyways, guys, thank you a lot for watching this video. I really do appreciate it. It does mean a lot to me that you continue to stick around and support me on these videos. Please give it a like, a thumbs up, share it if you want to. Links in the description below for the Patreon, Twitter, and all that kind of stuff. Subscribe if you want to stick around and see more. Other than that, guys, I hope you have a wonderful day. I'll talk to you next time.